Thanks, Christian. Thanks for having me. Everyone in this room has a brain problem. Everyone in this room has a brain problem. Now, I'm not saying that everybody in here is crazy, although I've been around hockey long enough to know that, and know hockey parents and hockey coaches well enough to know that there's probably a couple of you that are. And what I'm here to talk about is this brain problem. What is it? Well, you're going to find out as we go on what it is. But we marvel in amazement when our athletes overcome this problem. Whether it be Michael Jordan in the flu game, the 1980 Miracle on Ice, or Tom Brady leading his team back in last year's Super Bowl. We are amazed when they overcome the voices in their head that says it can't be done. A lot of times when it comes to dealing with the mental side of sports, we neglect it. Herb Brooks told his team before the 1980 Miracle on Ice that great moments are born from great opportunities. When we neglect the mental side of the game, when we neglect the inner athlete, we miss a great opportunity to create great conversations and great moments with our athletes. Now, the other thing about this is that when our athletes overcome this, when we coach them, we rejoice with them when they're able to overcome it. And we hurt with them when they fail. My job is to teach you, and what you're going to learn today is what you can do to help yourself and your athletes overcome the brain problem. This will be a great opportunity for you to learn in plain language how to deal with the mental side of sports. A lot of times what happens with my topic is that people view it as this is for soft people, or they are intimidated by it, or they're worried that if they need this, it means they're crazy. But that's not what it's about. This is about making athletes great. The first step in overcoming the brain problem is being able to meet your inner athlete without fear. Without fear, what you're going to find out. The second step is to get to know that part of you. Get to know the part of you that the dreams, the fears, the goals, the embarrassments, the failures that your athlete has faced. The next part is to create a plan to overcome those things and help them find a path to get there. And then at the end, the greatest thing I have found in working with athletes is that it is so much fun to see them love their inner athlete and as a result, love the game and learn from those experiences in sports that make them great people. So, the first part of this is asking yourself, what are the moments you coach for? Why are you here? You have to know this because you will face adversity. It's difficult these days to be a youth or a high school coach. There will be challenges. If your why is for glory and wins, you might want to examine your thinking. Because we share a why together, and that why is to create great kids who learn the valuable life lessons that come with participating in sports. This next slideshow is a series of pictures of my favorite day of the year. This is Christmas Eve Day. Hockey is a part of the fabric of our family. Sports and competition is a part of the fabric of our family. We get together, we play a pickup game. Everybody, even the non-hockey players. And I love doing this because from every year, I get to see them grow and develop in their skills, and I get to see the progress that they've made. I've seen them benefit from sports. I've seen them discover meaning and purpose. I've seen them learn what it takes to reach a goal. And I want to tell you a story that summarizes basically why I do what I do. My niece up there in the top left-hand corner, Cassidy, she's in graduate school now. And this is what happened. 5th grade. She invited us to a 5th grade girls basketball tournament. Whenever I tell this story, I remind her that if you ever doubt that we loved you, remember, we sat through a whole weekend of 5th grade girls basketball where the average score was 14-6. So they're playing in the friendship game. And there's about a minute left in the first half, and the coach from the other team is over at the scorer's table, and he's yelling, and he's moving his hands, and I'm like, what could be going on that is so important? After all, the score was 34-4. My niece's team was getting their butts kicked. You know what he wanted? He wanted the score changed to 36-4. Okay, so my blood is boiling. Don't mess with my niece. And then, there's 2 minutes left in the game, the friendship game, and you can hear him on the sideline yelling, "We need to break 60." He calls a timeout, brings all his starters back in, and they celebrate like they've just won the championship game. My blood was boiling, and all of a sudden, I feel this pinch right back here. And my wife says to me, "Don't do it." It's one of the reasons I married her. She knows what I'm thinking before I think it. And I said, "What do you think I'm going to do?" "I know what you're going to do. You're going to go talk to that guy because you're mad. I can see it." And I said, "Well, yeah." And she said, "You know what? Don't do it. You're just going to embarrass your niece, me, yourself. He's not going to listen to you. What you need to do is do something proactive about what you're seeing." And I hate to tell you, she was right. Even this summer, my son, 10 years old, playing in a baseball tournament. Not even one that has anything to do with going, just a local baseball tournament. They're playing a team that was really aggressive, which is fine. But when my son's team switched pitchers, the coach from the other team sent all his kids out of the dugout to kneel on the first baseline and stare down the changing pitcher at 10 years old. Okay? Now that story is not even the tip of the iceberg of the things that I see. You're going to hear a lot of rough and uncomfortable stories from me today. I'm not going to varnish them because part of what we're talking about is how to deal with uncomfortable situations. I tell my athletes that all the time. You have to know how to perform despite any of the circumstances. Now, one of the reasons that we often neglect the mental side of sports is a lot of people think that when it comes to that, this is what it is. Stewart does. And I play this video for you for a couple of different reasons. One, it makes you smile and laugh. When we're smiling and laughing, better to pay better attention and comprehend. The other reason is it brings up several themes that we're going to talk about today. The natural versus the bust. What it's like to live in the spotlight. What it's like to have people always watching you and wanting you to get better. We're also going to talk about the importance of hard work and a high-performing mindset. And last of all, we're going to talk about character. Now, a lot of times in our culture, we think character is something that you're just born with. But it's actually something that, as the great Vince Lombardi once said, it can be and should be built and developed. A lot of times in our culture, our kids think that culture is built like this.
Hey, mister, you gotta wear a helmet.
Don't worry about it. Oh, yeah, bring that shit on, man. Oh, good, I love it.
Awesome.
Oh, God, that hurt a little, but I'm all right.
My God, son, what the hell are you doing?
364 more days till next year's hockey tryouts. I gotta toughen up. Yeah! Oh, God, that felt good. Yeah!
Come on, boy, cut that out. You're making me sick. Hey!
What's that the definition of? Stupidity, and one other thing. Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get different results. Our job as coaches is to instill character, confidence, and courage in our athletes. One of the things I volunteer my time for is the Hobie Baker Foundation. I actually chaired it in 2013 and gave the award to Drew LeBlanc from St. Cloud State University. Hobie Baker provides us with a model for character in our sport. We're fortunate that way. But there's some things about Hobie Baker that a lot of people don't know. One of those things is that his parents were divorced at a time when it was scandalous to get divorced. He had a lot of family strife. His mom was sent away to an insane asylum when he was 12, and her presence in his life was minimal after that time. His family faced financial challenges. They lost all their money in a stock market crash. He was a target in games because he was often the best player on the ice. And he lived in a fishbowl, which he hated. And he would tell the reporters, please don't write anything about me. He was uncomfortable with all the attention. How did he respond? Well, he challenged himself. When he was a freshman at Princeton, freshmen couldn't play. So what he would do every night after class is go out on the pond in the dark because he believed that would make him a better player. He took 2 penalties in his entire career, despite being hacked and beat up. He's believed to be the person to start our sacred tradition in hockey, the only sport that does this. The handshake after the game, after a championship round. He'd go to the opponent's locker room and shake their hands to thank them for a good game. He never got paid to play. He believed that, and the belief at the time was getting paid to play sports was dishonorable. He was a multi-sport athlete. He's the only athlete that's in the Hockey Hall of Fame and the College Football Hall of Fame. And he believed that sports was there to prepare him for life. Now, I have seen in my experience on the Hobie Baker Committee that the athletes and the emphasis on character for the Hobie Baker Award makes the game better. These athletes have displayed to me great perspective and gratitude. Whether it was Ryan Duncan, who in 2007 said I'm not even the best player on my line, or Andy Mealy getting up at our banquet on his sister's birthday and asking everybody to sing happy birthday to her because he didn't want the whole day to be about him. Or Jack Connolly from UMD, who wrote a letter after he won the Hobie thanking the Minnesota hockey community for helping him develop. Or Drew LeBlanc bringing his team down after he won the Hobie and saying to them in his speech, I wouldn't have won this without you boys. But perhaps the greatest and most moving and inspiring story came in 2009. I want you to picture the following scene. Matt Gilroy has just won the Hobie Baker. He's got a press conference to do. Got an interview to do with Westwood One. His team, which he's the captain of, is waiting for him to go have a team dinner because they're playing in the national championship game the next day. He's got a family waiting for him, which consists of 9 siblings and his parents. And we're walking off the ice, and he grabs my coat, and he says, Hans, is there some place we can go where I can have a quiet moment? He takes out his phone, clearly gets voicemail, and he says, Lexi, I just want to thank you for everything you've done for me. I just won the Hobie Baker. You're my first phone call. You believed in me when no one else would. Thank you. I said, Matt, that's cool. I called your girlfriend after you won the Hobie. He said, Hans, that wasn't my girlfriend. That was my youth hockey coach. You may never coach a Hobie Baker winner. But as a hockey coach, you have the privilege and responsibility to impact lives in that way. Don't ever forget that. If you can make that kind of impact on a kid, you can challenge the future, their future, and the future of hockey and youth sports. How do we do that? Well, we face our brutal realities. Brutal realities are the things that we don't want to admit about ourselves, the things we're embarrassed about, the things we think we can't change, the things that look too hard. One of the brutal realities is the brain problem. And now we're going to start by helping you to realize the first part of the brain problem. So everybody get those mouse traps out. And what I want you to do is you're going to have a minute to set it with your eyes closed. Okay? But as you go into this, I want you to ask yourself some of the following questions. And this is part of learning about your inner athlete and getting to the point where you love it. What thoughts are you experiencing as you get ready to do this? What difficulties do you expect to encounter? What emotions are you experiencing? What's happening to your body as you prepare to do this? And what's your game plan for staying focused and poised? Okay? Everybody ready? Go. HP 15s, one kid did it 50 times in a minute. Got 15 seconds left. All right, time's up. All right, everybody set them down and pay attention up here, please. Okay? So, was it as hard as you thought it was going to be? Or was it harder? Think about what helped you complete the exercise. What did you do to manage your emotions? What did you do to manage the changes in your body? Did your game plan for staying focused and poised work? See, this is all about knowing your inner athlete. And what we're doing here and what I did is on a low level, I activated your fight, flight, freeze response. We're going to talk more about that in its role in the brain problem a little bit further on. So now what I want you to do is you have a sheet with a bunch of numbers on it. Two grids, okay? And what you're going to do is each table is going to compete. You're going to share your scores at the end, and the table with the highest score wins. And what you're doing is you're circling the numbers 1 to 100 in chronological order. You got a minute to do it. Now, there's a couple of ways that you can cheat, okay? So you can't do these things. And people have done that as this coaching clinic. So, one, you can't circle the whole grid and say you did it, okay? And you can't circle all the numbers without doing them in order. If you get them all done, I know you've cheated, okay? High score with this all time in doing this exercise is 77. Probably no one here will get that. Highest score with the Wild Prospects Camp was 37. Okay? Everybody ready? Everybody understand what you're doing? Whichever one you think you're going to do the best on. Okay? Get ready. Get set. Go. You're stuck at 1. Oh no, you got to 2. Oh, you're stuck at 1. 30 seconds. Ten, Time's up. Okay. Stand up if you got over 30. Over 25. 24. You got 24? Anybody get, stay standing up. Anybody get 23? 22. Anything above 19? Stand up. Okay. You guys are the naturals of the group. And the next, don't sit down. Okay? When I coach you, I'm expecting you to double your performance every time out so I look good as a coach. You're going to make me look good. Okay? So pressure's on the next time we do this. If you don't double your score, I'm going to be pissed. Okay? Go ahead, sit down. Anybody between 12 and 19, stand up. Okay? You're the mediocre middle. Okay? And how I feel about you and whether I put you on the ice depends upon how I feel about you on a given day or how well I think you're going to perform. So I sometimes have faith in you and sometimes don't. But sometimes you're going to make me look bad. And I'm a little bit worried about that. We'll see what happens. You're on the bubble. You're the mediocre middle. Okay, anybody who got below 12? All right. You're the bust of the group. You suck. Okay? You make me look bad and I don't like you and I'm going to yell at you and swear at you and call you names because you suck. You don't deserve my respect. Now, go ahead, sit down. Why am I doing this? Because this is often the way that it plays out. And the other thing is, this is often the language that our kids have for performance and where they stand. And a lot of times as coaches, we forget that. I'm going to tell you a story about something that happened with my wife's family. We went up and visited some of their family, and they had an 18-year-old daughter. We sat down to dinner, and she said, I'm hot, and I know I'm hot because I dumped my boyfriend, and I got another one 2 days later. I was like, oh, my God. So she brings the boyfriend over. Boyfriend comes over. He comes in, takes off his shoes. He says, hi, it was nice meeting you all. He gets our names right and everything. They go in the kitchen for an hour. They come back out, puts his shoes back on. He says, it's nice meeting you all. They go out to the porch, say their goodbye. She comes back a couple minutes later, and she says, so what did you think of my boyfriend? My wife says, well, but all I can say about him is he's got nice manners. What? Well, why can't you just say he's hot? And my wife said, well, I'm not going to say that. And I said, I'm not going to say that. But our kid, that's the language. For trust, respect, and love for her is, why can't you just say my boyfriend's hot? And a lot of times that's what we forget about kids, is that that's the way they think. We don't realize or we forget that that's the way they think about things. So, let's do a little post-game review. Now, I lied to you. You're not going to pool your scores because I was just doing that to raise your anxiety. How many of you had a game plan and what was it? Yeah. All the zeros. What else? Pattern? Yeah, you look for a pattern. What else? Okay. Which was harder, this or the mousetrap thing? This? Why? Huh? It's not familiar? More movements? You can't practice it? Yeah. More information? Right? Okay. This is what happens to kids when they're trying to learn new skills, right? All right. Now, what was your game plan for what you were thinking? Did you have one? This is part of getting to know your inner athlete. It's having a game plan for what you're going to do, what you're thinking. The possible negative thoughts, the possible positive thoughts. Okay? What were you feeling? Stressed? What else? How about you guys that I came and looked right at you Extra pressure. How about the mouse trap going off? That was just funny. It didn't bother you? Okay. All right. Again, I created a small fight, flight, freeze response for you. When it comes to what how many of you were afraid of embarrassing yourself? Yeah? How many of you felt embarrassed when I said you sucked? I actually went easy on you. I had the number a little, 12 is usually higher than I go for the busts. Okay? What happened to your body? Huh? Tensed up, right? All right, and here's the thing with this. When you do this, this is what our kids go through. And the other thing is that what were all of you competing for? What were you going to win? Nothing, right? Nothing at stake. But it still created that response. All right. So, our athletes need to know how to control their mind, because if they know how to control their mind, they know how to control their body. If they know how to control their body, they know how to control their skills. So here's what the brain problem is, and I'm going to need two people to help me demonstrate this. So who wants to come up and help me? Come on, don't be shy, don't be scared. If no one wants to come up and do it, you're telling me that not one of you up here is mentally tough. Which one of you wants to be the feeling side of the brain and which wants to be the thinking? They're both XL. All right. Go ahead, throw that on. Okay, so right now we got the thinking and the feeling side of the brain getting ready to go. Right now, this brain is balanced and relaxed. Okay? Yes. Maybe I'll get a hat next time instead. Okay, so right now this brain can perform at a high level. Go ahead, throw the ball back and forth, boys. Took a little tip from the Patriots and deflated it to make it easier to catch. Okay? Now, in life, there's a stress scale. Okay, you can hold the ball. 100 is life-threatening. 0 is an inconvenience or spilled milk. The most effective and consistent performers are able to overcome the brain problem and keep this in perspective. There's a performance stress scale. 100 is performance killing, 0 is no impact. We got S on one end for stressful event, and at the other end, a smaller S for stressful event. Again, the most consistent and effective performers are able to keep these all in perspective. Okay, now, it's important for you to remember that this is all relative. Back in the day when I used to work with juvenile delinquents and their families, I went to this house, and I had to go out the back door to go get a form for the mom to sign. There were 2 boys in the backyard smoking pot. They were 12 years old, and they were drinking beer. I come back in, I tell the mom, hey, this is going on. She says, oh, honey, don't worry about that. I know that that's where they go to hide from the police. Thinking about my own safety, I say, you ever get worried that, like, if you're hiding people from the police, that your house might get raided? She said, oh, honey, you can relax. I got a gun. I'll protect us both. Okay? For me, that was a 99. Okay, and by the way, we started meeting in public after that. And for her, you can tell by her flippant response that it was a 20 or a 30. Okay? So, our brains have a stress container. It's called the amygdala. That's the technical term. We're going to call it the stress container. Okay? Now, what happens when we face stress and stress occurs, the door between thinking and feeling shuts. Go ahead and try to throw the ball. Try harder, please. Okay? The door between thinking and feeling shuts, and in order for us to perform at a high level, come on. These two sides of the brain have to be able to communicate with one another. Go ahead, hold the ball. Okay? You got the lucky part. All right, so stress occurs. We deal with the threat. Your brain is wired to provide you with survival, safety, and significance. Okay? And in this process, it learns from the stressful events once the stressful event goes away, all those events go back in. What's your name? Right here? Adam? Where do you coach? Okay. You put your hands to your side. Okay. Now, your brain remembers those stressful events to provide you with safety and survival. Because these could be threats, okay? Each time we face a stressful event, our brain remembers it. Now, a lot of times coaches like to tell kids, just block it out, just calm down. Easy for you to say, way harder for them to do, okay? So we're going to pretend you're a young athlete, all right? Throw him the ball. How you feeling about the ball? All right. So you got to perform, and there's the ball, all right? But now let's say you're a young athlete and you get walked, okay? And now let's say you're a young athlete and you asked out the hottest girl in school and she said no, okay? And now let's say that you got a bad grade on a test, or your parents busted you sneaking out, or some kid bullied you or chirped you, okay? Hey, block it out, by the way. Oh, yeah, block all those things out. Just perform, okay? And if you don't, I'm going to scream at you. And I'm going to take it personally, too, all right? And, right, can't you block? Can you throw that to him easily and maintain all that stuff, all the balls in the air? It'd be difficult, right? Okay, and now, how you feeling about what we're doing? It's a little stressful? Okay, well, now I'm going to ask you to play up and move up to the next level, okay? Right now, what you're dealing with is fear. Now, you're dealing with danger. I figured. Okay, and here's the deal. What you need to remember is that kids see us as this. Okay? Now, no, I'm not going to put it there. Although that would be tempting, but I don't want to get sued either. Okay. So, can you just block it out and keep yourself safe? You think so, huh? Okay. One of the stories I heard in the last year was about a coaching place that will remain nameless, that when their mites would flip out and block things out, guess what they got called? The P word. Mites. There's no place for that ever in coaching. That's lazy and offensive. Okay? So block it out. Somebody called you that. Or it might be like this young woman that I worked with, basketball player. She said, my dad really cares about my performance. Really? Why do you say that? Well, when I don't play well, or when I have a big game, he tells me if I don't play well, I'm going to hurt the family cat. He's going to hurt the family cat or dog. No shit. Okay? So that might be that. All right. So here's what happens. Now you're sitting over there, and you're in a lot of danger. This brain isn't going to be able to perform very well, is it? Just block it out, Adam. You don't care? Come on, throw him the ball. You don't care? Come on, faster, faster. Okay, so now he can kind of perform. This brain can kind of perform. But guess what happens? When he sees something like that coming along again, it's like deja vu all over again. Door shuts. And this is what happens to your athletes physically. Adrenaline and cortisol gets released. Your vision narrows. Your heart rate increases. Has that happened to you? Yeah. Has your breath shortened? Blood rushes to your hands and feet. Your physical fundamentals regress. They get a deer in the headlights look, muscle tension, poor body language, Mentally, what happens is their creativity goes away. They get emotionally flooded. Their mind lies. Their brutal realities kick in. The negative self-talk takes place. All your coaching goes away. Their focus narrows. Their performance narrows. And what do? Adam, you're soft. Adam, you're a wimp. You suck. Adam, you got no character. You got no heart. Adam, you're a bad kid. Adam, you're soft. You're never going to go anywhere in hockey. You're so stupid and dumb. Why did you even come out on the ice? This is all stuff that I've had kids been told. This isn't helpful. You'd never do this to yourself, although some people do. But this does not help, okay? You're a head case, Adam. How are you feeling right now? Even though you know this isn't true, and I don't really mean it, and I don't have any authority over you, why don't you just block it out, right? Because if you drop all those, it's all hell is going to break loose for you. You don't feel safe right now, okay? So, you're good. By the way, my job is to teach athletes how to disarm these. I can do it without any fear because I've done it a lot. This one I'm a little more hesitant about because this one actually can hurt. Okay? All right. Let's take the balls back from Adam. Adam, you've been a great sport. I thank you. No hard feelings, right? All right. Oh, that was smart. You can both sit down. All right. What? Yeah. You can go back to your seats. Okay. So, what often triggers the brain problem? Well, playing bad, other people's strong emotions, uncomfortable emotions and overwhelmed, getting chirped, not turning it around, criticism, being frustrated. This is something this is an exercise I did with one of my athletes who plays in the Big Ten. By the way, any of the stories you hear from me, if you think you know who they are, you don't. I've changed the details enough so that you won't know who they are, okay? So, this is what he thinks once he gets triggered. Got to play better. I'm so mad. Got to figure it out. Keep trying. I suck. Give up the dream. Everyone knows it's over. I'm overrated. Everyone's going to see me as a failure. God, I'm depressed. Feeling this way confirms I'm a failure. People won't respect me unless I'm good. They won't like me if I'm not good. No one will like me, and I'll be this way forever. This is what happens, and I see this over and over again. I see this process play out over and over again. This is a part of getting to know your inner athlete. You got to embrace that this is part of the problem, and you got to figure out a way to change it. Now, in order to change their performance, and in order to change your performance, you have to know something about yourself. Which means for you as coaches, you have to know something about them if you're going to change their performance. What are the signs that the door is shut? You get a fight, flight, freeze response. So they might play like a one-person team. They might rage out, break a stick over the net, break a stick against the boards. They might beat themselves up like our young athlete from the Big Ten did. They might play when they want to play. They do the Randy Moss. They're inconsistent. They show up, and then they don't. You get frustrated with them. They might get in a prolonged slump. They might grip the sticks tighter. They might play scared and tentative, not to lose. And then they start to overthink. So what could be in their container? Well, it could be injuries or concussions, witnessing them or their own. It could be bad experiences with teachers or coaches. I worked with a baseball player. Got him in 9th grade, wanted to play college baseball. Came to me and said, Hans, I want to play college baseball. I said, what does your coach say you got to get better at? He says, oh, I don't know. I said, go talk to your coach. For a month, he went to the coach's door and would get to the door and turn back around. I'm like, what's the deal? Do you want this? Yeah, I want this. So what it turned out was, when he was in 5th grade, got in trouble in school, got kicked out of class one day. Happened to be the same day that there were conferences. Got to the conference. There was an army of administrators there. Teacher was in tears, and she said, I'm quitting teaching at the end of the year because of you. See why that kid would be afraid to go talk to someone in authority? You see the kind of impact you can have on a kid as an adult? You gotta not let the brain problem get to you when you're frustrated. It might be a bad experience with a teammate. It might be repeated messages that they've gotten about themselves, either how good or bad they are. It might be you're a natural, you're a bust, you're a failure, you're in the mediocre middle. It might be poor performances, embarrassments, or it might be stressful family life events. I want to tell you a little story about something that happened to me and how it created a brain problem for me. So, Jack Jablonski gets hurt. I'm already working with the Wyzetta team. I get a call from the head coach. He says, I need you to be ready on Tuesday to help these kids. This is a mess. I don't know what to do. Okay, get a call a couple days later, and I say to that coach, it's more than likely I'm going to hear from the other team. I'm going to hear from Benilde. He says, yeah, that's fine. So, as I predicted, less than 24 hours later, I get a phone call from an assistant from Benilde. We need your help. I said, look, the other team has asked me to help them. Are you all right with that? They said, yep, absolutely. Okay. So, long story short, I had over 30 people between the time Jack got hurt until July come to see me to deal with what had happened. It was on July 21st that summer that I turned 40. And my wife and I rode to work together, and I said the day before, you know what? I think I'm going to die tomorrow. And she said, what? Why? There's nothing wrong with you. I said, yeah, I know. So I did what I was trained to do. I went to a mentor and a former supervisor, and I said, this is what I'm thinking. It doesn't make any sense. And Mary said, Hans, what did you think? That wasn't going to affect you? You got PTSD. Well, wait a second. I'm supposed to be tough. This isn't supposed to affect me. I know that this is my job, right? I'm not supposed to be human. She said, what? Oh, so you thought you should be a superhero? And I said, well, I guess. And she said, well, you know what? I've known you a long time. I know you're not a superhero. And more importantly, if this didn't affect you, I think you're a psychopath. So if you don't think the brain problem affects you or your athletes, you're one or the other. So I did what I was supposed to do. I went and saw somebody, and I'll explain a little bit later about how you go ahead and solve that problem when you can't solve it on your own. But this happens. I've learned over time that none of us can get through life without help from someone else. It's just impossible. We need people. What does our brain provide? Survival, safety, and significance. That's why we need people, is the significance part. Okay, so the other thing that you need to know is when you're working with really good athletes, here's a bell curve, all right? You got the low performers who are alone and have to figure out the difference between fear and danger. You got the high performers who are alone and have to figure out the difference between fear and danger. And then you got the mediocre middle. The good news for the mediocre middle is you're safe. But we're biologically wired when we're alone and we have to figure out the difference between fear and danger for our door to shut. And that's biologically wired into us because if 400 years ago, if you want to go hunt buffalo, you want to go with the mediocre middle. It's safer, it's easier. You're less likely to get killed if there's more of you. Okay? So what do you do now as a coach when their door shuts? You need to stay calm. Then you need to remember that it's not about you. It's not about you. They're not doing it to make you pull your hair out. They're not doing it to be disrespectful. They're not doing it because they want to lose games. What they're doing is they're trying to tell you that there's something wrong and they don't have the words for it. So what you need to do is create a plan to help these athletes. Help them get to the next level. Help them work through their door being shut. You all know how to do it. Because if you don't know how to do it, you end up in jail. What does your plan needs to include? Physical calming skills. It needs to include rebooting skills, which we'll get to in a minute. You need to normalize it for them. This is a normal thing. This happens to athletes all the time. Who can think of some times where this has happened on an international or national stage? Last year's Super Bowl for sure for Atlanta. How about the U.S. women's hockey team in the last 2 minutes? Last gold medal game. How about Brazil in the World Cup? Happens all. Jordan Spieth at a couple of Masters ago. If you normalize it, you neutralize it. If you reframe it as a challenge, your door is less likely to shut. Then you need to come up with some trigger words that gets them back to their optimal performance zone. And then smile. One of the things you need to remember as a coach, you might be the only person who smiles at a kid on a given day. You might be the only one that tells them that you believe in them. That's part of that privilege and responsibility. And it's part of teaching them how to love their inner athlete. So you do that by practice making permanent. What you can do and what I had to do was go through a brain training exercise that actually the thinking and the feeling side of the brain alternate. You hold these things that vibrate. You talk about the thing that bothers you or makes you upset. And what it does is because each side of the brain is activated, your door can't shut. You're able to use your thinking. And what happens is the next time you're exposed to that thing, you don't get that deja vu all over again. In the same way, you can learn how to reboot your brain. So what you can do, everybody put your hand like this. Okay? Move your eyes back and forth without moving your head. Okay? You're activating the optic nerve in your brain. And you're bringing both sides of the brain online. You can look far and then look at your nose. It does the same thing. Don't do it too fast. You can go like this with your hands. You can count down from 200 by sevens and back up. You do a centering breath. You breathe into 5, hold it for 2, out to 7. You can visualize. You can read and spell the sign. So you find a sign on the boards, you read it, and you spell it forwards and backwards. You're creating a sensory distraction to overcome an emotional distraction. And then smile. Oh, this is what I was talking about with the brain training. That's how it goes. Okay, so the next part of this is mindset. In order to change your performance, you got to know something about yourself, which means you got to know something about your athletes. The first stage, which we've been working on, is you're clueless. Okay, my favorite story about this stage is about 2 wrestlers that were twins that they came to see me. They would rage out and swear and put holes in the drywall after they lost matches. So I asked the parents, what do you think the problem is? And with their 2 14-year-olds in the room, the dad says, the fucking problem with these fucking kids is they fucking swear way too fucking much. And I said, do you realize what you just said? He said, no, what the fuck did I say? You just told me that your kids swear too much, and you said the F word 6 times. What does that have to do with anything? He was in the second stage, sabotage. And he fired me after 2 sessions because I insisted he change that. He didn't want to change. He knew what he needed to do. I made him aware. But he didn't want to change it. Okay? The next stage is you're almost there. You can do it, but it's not easy. And then the next stage is it's easy. Now, we talked about the other brutal reality is the natural versus the bust. We put athletes in 2 categories, naturals versus busts. And what that does is it creates a continuum of the naturals over the busts. The naturals are grandiose. They think they're better than, and as a result, they have power over everybody. And the busts have a sense of self-disgust with themselves. They're worse than, and they think they're powerless. And what happens when we put them in natural versus bust is they never go from good to great because they're moving up and down. They go from one extreme to the other. And then we have what I call as the Sports Center effect, where you guys have 1,000 coaches in the stands who think they know better than you. And believe me, they'll tell everybody else in your association how dumb you are. You got a fantasy football culture that's focused on outcome and stats and instant gratification and always playing games to measure yourself. And then we have professionalization and specialization. And one of the unintended consequences of professionalization and specialization is this. That same year that Matt Gilroy won the Hobie, I got to sit with his dad and Jack Parker at our banquet. And what Jack Parker said is, and Frank, who had a cup of coffee in the NBA, is that professionalization and specialization leads kids to not play things that they're bad at. And that makes it difficult for them to overcome adversity. Not to mention all the helicopter parenting that we have going on and the snowplow parents who move ahead and take all the obstacles out of their kids' way so they don't have to experience adversity. And so then our kids think adversity is bad, that there's something wrong with them. And then the other thing what happens is they confuse what versus who they are. So what happens is they think people love them for what they are, not who they are. So the game becomes a blessing and a curse because their identity is focused on the fact that if they play well, they're great and the world is great. And if they play poorly, the world sucks and they suck. And it gets worse. I had a kid who had a full ride to an Ivy League school and an academic one, but really it was for sports. And what he did is he said to me, I'm quitting. Texted me on a Saturday. I said, why are you quitting? Well, my parents are fighting. Yeah? What does that have to do with why you're going to quit? Well, the only time they fight is when I play bad. Yeah? And the only time they talk about getting divorced is when I play bad. Oh, well, that has nothing to do with you. Really? Yeah, really. His parents' self-identity is on the line. The game became a blessing and a curse for them. Which that does is that creates pressure and expectations. And as those pressure and expectations go up, they engage in a system of constant judgment. I explain it to the younger kids like this. It's kind of like you're texting a boy or a girl that you like, and after every text you say to her, do you or him, do you still like me? That's what they do. That's ridiculous. And then they start to overfocus and do the Happy Gilmore, do the same thing over and over again and expect to get different results. And then they don't play in their optimal performance zone. What's your optimal performance zone? Well, on one end of performance, we've got the relax zone. This is where you're overconfident. You rely a lot on your physical ability. You don't bring much energy to the game because you don't think you have to. You got a broad awareness, so you don't know what to pay attention to play well. And in the relax zone, our athletes usually have big egos. They're grandiose. They think they're superior. They're entitled to play well, and everybody should make the conditions perfect for them. And they have too much trust in their physical ability. And that's where the naturals tend to play. Their language is, everybody has to make it perfect for me. If you don't, it's somebody else's fault. The ice, the officials, the equipment, you, parents, and they see criticism as you saying they're a bust. And in the tenth zone, they lack confidence, they have uncontrolled energy, and they've got a narrow awareness. They don't know they miss important information about how to perform at a high level. And the bust has a language where they're overcritical, like the kid that I showed you earlier. They think you pointing out mistakes is because you're doing it to punish them, and they want to quit. In the tenth zone, they have a low ego. They think they're inferior, and they don't have any trust in their physical ability. In the zone, it's like playing on the pond on Christmas Eve day. Got a sense of control. You're focused on the immediate moment. There's a loss of self-identity. You're not worried about what other people are thinking. You're just focused on what's important now, and you're having fun. Natural and the bust are both examples of fixed mindset. I recommend every coach read the book by Carol Dweck called Mindset. That's what a lot of this work is based on. Fixed mindsets are focused on the idea that you have certain traits or qualities that you can't train or develop. Okay, people do that because they want to avoid challenges. That's because they fear embarrassing themselves, and they do that to create the illusion of certainty. Okay? That creates a default future for them. What's a default future? The default future is the future you live into based on your own experiences. So, that means if you're a fan of the Wild, Timberwolves, or the Vikings, no matter how they do in the regular season, you should always expect to get disappointed. Okay? That's the default future. Default futures that are based on fixed mindsets have no definition. There's no reason then to engage in development. And then their game stagnates and our game stagnates. There is an alternate mindset, and that's a high-performing one. What does it sound like?
Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I led you to believe it was easy when it wasn't. Maybe I made you think my highlights started at the free throw line and not in the gym. Maybe I made you think that every shot I took was a game winner. That my game was built on flash and not fire. Maybe it's my fault that you didn't see that failure gave me strength, that my pain was my motivation. Maybe I led you to believe that basketball was a God-given gift and not something I worked for every single day of my life. Maybe I destroyed the game. Or maybe you're just making excuses.
A high-performing mindset means you're focused on challenging yourself and competing against your own last performance. It means you're self-forgiving. Doesn't mean that you don't care. It means that you acknowledge your mistakes and move on and let it go. You make a conscious decision to let go and do better the next time. You're able to see failure as a learning opportunity, and you're able to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Which, by the way, is what I've been doing to you. Making you uncomfortable with the stories, with the mouse traps, with the exercise. Okay? Then you need to teach them how to visualize. Help them come up with 4 words that represents what their OPZ is, and have them focus on what they see, hear, taste, and smell, and the emotions that they feel and how their body feels. And then what you can do to teach them how to get to the next level is do some daily drills, those number grids. I will put them up on my website. And what you can have the kids do is do them over and over again. They do it one time, they do all 100 of them, they time themselves. And they do it again, see if they can get progressively better. And the other thing that you'll see with that is as they do it, they will start to realize what distracts them and keeps them from getting focused. Meditation. There are several apps out there that you can buy for your phone. 10% Happier. Headspace. There's a couple others. There's tons of them. Meditation will help with all of this. Even 10 minutes or 5 minutes a day. The 10% Happier app is all of those meditations are under 10 minutes. You do visualizing. You can help them create a reboot routine, or a way to get over, a routine to help them get over the mistakes that they've made. And then you can do a daily goal review of your plan, of what you want them to do. And then what you need to do as a coach with them with that plan is help them review it and learn from it over and over again. As they get progressively better, you can add things. But you also need to reinforce what they're doing well. and how you've seen improvement. Now, it's more than just this, though. The story I told earlier about Benilde and Wyzetta, I didn't figure this out till a couple of years later. But what happened there, some of you may not know, they play each other often to go to the state tournament. They're quite bitter rivals. Yet, both those coaching staffs put the game and the kids ahead of that. I hadn't thought about it that way before. But they were all in this together. They put the rivalry aside. They were still competitive. They had to play each other in the playoffs that year, I think. But they put the kids ahead of the game and ahead of their own egos. That's what you need to do as a coach. You're not going to be able to change their performance unless you know something about them and know something about yourself. What I want you to do, and what my goal is with what I do, is to make this stuff accessible. Because a lot of times people who do what I do don't. They're heady, they're intellectuals, they don't make it accessible to kids. Kids will get this stuff. Go back to your associations. Explain the brain problem. Explain how it's normal. Explain what they can do to get over it. Explain the high-performing mindset. Keep your why the center of your focus every day that you go on the ice. What I want you to do right now is think about 3 of the most influential people in your life. What was their why? How'd you know it? What did they do? What made you know that they had your best interest in mind? Why could they push you? Even if you didn't like it. How did it impact you? Positively? Negatively? And these influential people may not be people that you like. To make this stuff accessible, what I've done on my resources page is I've made it possible for all of you to get access to the stuff that I do. All my different handouts. All you have to do is go to the Center for Sports and the Mind webpage and go to the resources page. You log in with your email address and your name and your association, and you'll have access to that stuff. Eventually, a video and the full PowerPoint presentation will be up there. So wait a couple of days because we've had a couple of little technical problems. When you do log in, at this point in time, you have to download the stuff that you want right away. You can't go back. Or you have to use a different email address. All right. So, the last thing that you need to remember is if you want to keep yourself in check, this is the simplest question about all this stuff. When you walk off the ice, when you leave the rink, you can check your why by asking yourself, am I being who I want to be?